What's up everyone, D-Crack here, about to react to another video for you guys. This video says scary stories and paranormal encounters. Like always, I'll have a link to original video down below. And also, oh shit, I should probably turn on my mouse, otherwise we're not going to watch anything. Alright guys, let's go ahead and check this out.
When I first started making videos nearly 2 years ago, I had no idea people would be sending me in their personal stories to share with the world. Some are heartwarming, some are UFO sightings, and others are downright creepy encounters, usually with paranormal beings, and those are the ones I'll be talking about in this video. So, from a mysterious sound that came from someone's house phone to one of the creepiest hitchhiker stories I have ever heard about, here are 5 stories that have been sent to me that you will not find anywhere else on the internet. Hit the lights and enjoy. The following recordings were sent to me by a man called Juan from Tucson, Arizona. The story goes that a few years back when he was in 7th grade and living with his parents, they had some bizarre voices coming through their house phone.
Oh.
It all started when one day he heard a voice and thought the phone had not been hung up properly. However, the unexplained voices and what sounded like a radio transmission became a regular occurrence. The family could not figure out what was going on, but assumed the phone was malfunctioning and picking up radio signals. At first, they were not too creeped out or concerned, but then Juan used an MP3 player to record the voices, and a few of them started to sound like a girl screaming, which over time was followed by a man's voice. Juan became pretty disturbed and was wondering if it was just radio signals that sounded like someone was in distress, or whether there really was someone out there who was being harmed and the phone was picking this up somehow. It's pretty eerie, so take a listen and see what you think. Eventually, the sound stopped and the family forgot about them. They replaced the phone, and that was pretty much the end of it. Fast forward a few years, and Juan listened back to the sounds and was reminded how creepy they really were and wants some kind of an explanation. I don't know what it could be, but hope it was just the phone picking up random signals that happened to sound like someone and wasn't actually a person in trouble. What's your thoughts?
The guy on it sounded kind of sinister.
Maggie. This next story was sent to me by someone who wishes to remain anonymous, so I will call them Maggie. Maggie's mother was a practicing Wiccan, so she grew up privy to the supernatural, although she had no interest in it herself, and her mother never pushed her beliefs onto her. Anyway, as Maggie grew up in a quiet hometown in the US and finished high school, she was eager to leave home and explore other states. Always being a bit rebellious, once out of sight of her parents and in a place with no supervision, she got into trouble often. But Maggie became increasingly ashamed of some of her actions and never shared her experiences with anyone back home. She eventually realized her lifestyle was getting out of control, so flew back home to her parents, confident no one would find out the full extent of what she had done. Once home, Maggie shared some of the stories of her adventures with her parents, who were unaware of what she had really been getting up to. After this, her mother felt the need to reconnect with her daughter, and her way of doing this was to hold an Ouija board session, which was not an unusual request, as Maggie had participated in these several times before, although they did make her feel uneasy. Maggie agreed to the session, and her mother asked the board to speak to her deceased father, which is how she usually started. The board said no several times, which was unusual, so Maggie asked if it wanted to speak to her instead, and it replied yes. The board then erratically started to move around in circles, making no sense at all, and Maggie felt a very dark presence to the right of her. The board then spelled out the names Philip and Jeremy, and Maggie told her mum these were 2 men she had met on her travel. What her mother did not know was that Maggie had slept with these 2 people. The board then spelt the word pig 3 times, followed by the names of several illegal substances, all of which Maggie had tried whilst away. Maggie's heart dropped as it spelt the word liar 666 and then goodbye. As the lights in the room flickered, the session was over. Maggie said there was absolutely no way her mother could have known all of the things that the Ouija board spelt out, and is convinced the board was trying to hurt both of them. She knew she had to tell her mother the truth, but this was not the end of it. Maggie started to experience vivid nightmares of a tall, dark, shadowy figure who who was trying to lure her to a place that she couldn't get back from. And one night, she woke up to find all of the lights in her room on, even though they were turned off when she went to bed. And the curtains were floating 4 feet from the ground. Maggie screamed as her mother came running in and shouted, "That is enough, stop it, stop." Thinking her daughter might be in danger, she suggested another Ouija board session to try and find the answers. During the session, the shadowy figure from Maggie's nightmares identified himself as a servant of the devil, spelling his name as Maz.
This mom's
After
a
doing some
fucking
research,
idiot.
Maggie's mother found a way
Doing
to
the
cleanse
Ouija
her
board
daughter
again?
and their home of this evil by performing several rituals, and the dark energy seemingly disappeared. Since this, Maggie has not experienced any more dark entities, but said it was incredibly traumatic and recommends everyone stay far away from Ouija boards.
Exactly.
The California State University is composed of 23 different campuses, one of which is the Channel Islands campus that was built in Camarillo in 2002. While freshman Ely had some interesting stories to tell during her time there. She was living with 5 roommates who slept in 2 separate rooms that were divided by a thin wall. But not long after moving in, Ely's bed started to shake late at night. She thought it was due to the thin wall and the bed on the other side. However, while talking to the girl whose bed was on the other side of the wall, she discovered that her bed also shook randomly late at night.
What?
They both came to the conclusion that it must be caused by one of them moving around as they slept. However, a few nights after their conversation, at around 2 AM, Ely's bed started to shake. She texted her friend and asked her if she was moving, and she said, "No, are you?" Ely said no, even though both girls' beds were shaking. The next day, Ely asked one of her roommates to push her bed to make it shake, and it took some force but didn't feel the same as it did when it shakes at night. They were all pretty confused at this point, but then other strange things started happening in their dorm. Like the one girl having tiny imprints near her feet and legs, and things going missing then reappearing.
Imprints?
One of the girls also claimed that she saw a shadow in the hallway, but when she checked, no one was ever there. The girls had no answers for what was going on, and it could have explanations not related to the paranormal, but then you learn a little about the history of the campus and all of the encounters people have had there, and things get interesting. The university's bell tower contains a ladies' restroom, and tons of stories have been shared about seeing unexplained figures in there, as well as the door shaking violently during the day with no obvious explanation. But why is this? Well, going back to 1936, the plot the university sits on was the Camarillo State Mental Hospital, home to thousands of insane and mentally ill patients who would undergo electric shock treatment and other alleged inhumane practices. Following its closure in 1997, it became a popular destination for ghost hunters due to its rumoured paranormal activity before and after its abandonment. Like 2 former nurses who worked in the hospital, who both described being grabbed roughly and shaken by an invisible entity. And others who claimed to have seen apparitions and feelings of dizziness, headaches, and nausea whilst working there. So was the University of California, Channel Islands, built on a haunted piece of ground due to the previous mental hospital? And is that the reasoning for its believed paranormal activity?
I wouldn't stick around long enough to find out.
This next story comes with some video footage that was sent to me a while back by Raul Cazares from Amarillo, Texas. At the time, he was working for a remodeling company and became friends with someone who can be seen in the video he sent me. Well, his friends showed Raul the footage of himself and another friend doing flips and told him that one of the guys, who was not featured in the video, had shown the footage to his family, and one of his sons said, "Daddy, who is the little girl that was there?" He answered, "No one, why do you ask?"
What the
And his son
fuck?
said, "Yes there was, you can hear her in the video." After playing the video back, he realised his son was right. In the background, a little girl's voice can be heard speaking in Spanish, saying, "What is happening here?" A few seconds into the video, the voice can be heard again, this time sounding a little more agitated, saying, "What is happening?" Take a listen.
Yo!
You're probably thinking it could have been a radio, but Raul has said that no radio was on. And what makes things even stranger is that the house they were working on was in the middle of nowhere in a Texas field. It was also a new build with no electricity installed yet, so it couldn't have been any interference. So is this a clear EVP of a little girl's ghost possibly being picked up in the area? Or is there
saying,
another
what are you
explanation?
doing here?
Raoul and I would love to hear your thoughts. India Ghost. After watching my CCTV ghost videos, Dheeraj from India decided to share his story with me. It took place in November 2012 when he was driving his Honda Passion motorcycle to his home in Secunderabad. It was around 11:50 PM and Dheeraj was 10 minutes or so away from home. As he was riding, he turned off Highway 44 and there he saw a man waving his hand for a lift. Dheeraj stopped and offered him to jump on the back of his bike, so he did. The two men started a normal conversation about studies and such, but as Dheeraj glanced in his rearview mirrors, he was shocked that he could not see his passenger, but he knew he was there because he could feel him. At this point, he started to sweat and panic and couldn't speak, even though the guy behind him was still asking questions. After driving for around 5 minutes, the stranger asked Dheeraj to stop, and they were currently in the middle of nowhere. He stopped as the passenger got off, then shortly after his motorbike cut out, and he desperately tried to start it again, but to no avail. He was now stranded on an unlit, desolate road, and was too scared to turn around and see if the man he had just dropped off was still there. What he did do was look in his rearview mirror, and the man was clearly visible, just standing staring right at him. Dheeraj turned around, but the man had gone. For around 10 minutes, Dheeraj tried to start his bike when a large truck approached and asked him what the problem was. Realising he was in shock, the truck driver got out of his cab to reassure him and asked if he had seen someone or something. He then offered to try and get the bike going, and in one kickstart it fired up. He told Dheeraj to drive home and not look back or stop, as there is lots of ghost activity on this road, and he had been driving along it for over 20 years and seen many similar incidents taking place. Dheeraj drove straight home and has never travelled along that stretch of road again, and has no explanation for what happened, but believes it was something paranormal. It's a pretty damn creepy story, and we would both love to know what you think of it.
Yeah, that is pretty creepy. Alright guys, that was 5 scary stories and paranormal encounters submitted by the fans, I guess, of Top 5. So that's kind of cool. Some original scary stories there, some stories we've never heard before. Because like you said, on YouTube you tend to see the same videos and the same stories on multiple channels, and it's like, oh, I've heard this before. So it's nice to have some fresh content. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this, make sure and smack the like button and subscribe if you're new. Also, if you have a video you want me to react to, comment down below. Maybe I'll check it out. But until next time guys, peace.